Okay. Oh, my name's Moshe. I'm coming to you from Israel in the Galilee on a rainy, cold, nasty day. But to me, the rain is horrible. But to the people growing agriculture, which we actually do on our property, it's a blessing. So I just have to put up with it. Thank you for the prayers. So far, the roof has not leaked. And let's take a look at what they're telling us about the weather. Give me a second, I'm working on the iPad a little bit here. Okay. 50, I think it's 58 right now, high of 61. And they're telling us at about 1 o'clock the rain should go away for what looks like until late tonight. And there's only a 30% chance of rain from now till late tonight. Tomorrow, thank you for the prayers. Thank you. We're not forecast for rain, nor Sunday or Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, nor Thursday or Friday or Saturday or Sunday. So we've got about roughly 10 days with no more rain. So today should be it, thank God. So it's not going to be warming up that much. The weekend will have highs of the very low 60s, and then by mid or end of the week, next week will be into the higher 60s, and then we'll start climbing up. Any day now, not much longer, we're going to have we're going to go into the 12th month. The 12th month, which means that the end of the 12th month is most likely going to be sometime towards the end of February, but not at the end, but close. Now, what you need to understand, and this is important, is that we predict the new months by what they call a kadosh, which means new, the new moon. It's a sliver. You got to spot it, and it has to be done from Israel, probably from Jerusalem. But my wife does it here from the Galilee, and we usually have confirmation from people in Jerusalem. There's several people in Israel that spot it. Not that many, but there's enough. Now, there's a few false believers that play this game with the spotting, and, we tend to ignore them because they're just here to confuse. Now, there's a lot of people that have started this rumor that because it's referred to the month of Abib, the first month, that word means the barley is ready, okay? And it says, you shall not appear before me empty-handed. Now, for almost 2,000 years now, or about 2,000 years, since the destruction of Herod's temple, we have not appeared before him at all. Really. No legitimate bona fide temple in the right place. So we haven't appeared to him at all. So what some of the false believers have propagated is a thing called intercalculated year. So they say that the barley has to be ready for the month to be Abib. Well, and if it's not ready, you have to add another month onto the year. I have never found a single verse in the Bible that clearly states they added a month to the year. I have never found a verse in the Bible that would indicate the year is more than 360 days, 12 times 30. I've never found that. Now, what's up with this barley, and you shall not appear before me empty-handed with a first fruits offering? Well, first of all, today, where you're going to appear, there's nowhere to appear. Number two, if God wants to show Israel that they're in error without devastating them, he can just delay the crop so they would have to appear before him empty-handed. And that would mean the blessings of the law are starting to go away. And that would give them a dire warning, and the Levites and the Kohanim would start figuring out what's wrong if they were correct, if they were truly serving Jehovah. Okay? So remember, the new moon is indicated by the appearing of the new moon sliver. That's Bible, firm. The year is calculated at the end of the 12th month. You're into the next year. So it's all depending on the moon. The barley is something they wrote into it. Being Abib, it has to be it. Okay? So there's 12 months to a year. You don't have 13-month years. Okay? There's no place in the Bible where it ever even closely says they did this. So I just want to point that out to you. Okay? So it's expected that, what is today's date anyway? Probably someplace around the 18th, 20th of February. We'll probably go into the next year. I'm guessing we got to see how the moon goes. And I don't know how many more, there may be a week away or, something like that, So remember, the new year would typically start in late February or quite early March, not what the rabbis teach, okay? So I'll call it when we go into the 12th month, and I'll let you know, and go from there. Are we going into a Jubilee year? Well, let's say what we're not doing. We're not going into the so-called Golden Jubilee, which is not a word in the Bible, Golden Jubilee. But it might be a 70th Jubilee, they say. Well, it's not. I tried working it back. You multiply 70 for the Jubilees, and you multiply, the 50 years, and go back in time, and good luck trying to figure out when that would be. But I don't think it would be now. But we could be having a Jubilee year. That could be because of redemption, would fall in that year. Does it mean that the year of redemption would fall into the chronology of this next year? Well, when you go to Isaiah 61 and Yeshua talks about the acceptable year of the Lord, he accepts you in Israel, which could maybe kind of stretching it, say that's second Exodus, and yeah, maybe. And then at the end of this, he gives us great amount of crops, because we're not saving everything up in the 6th year and all that, because nobody's following Shemitah year here except for a tiny amount of people. So, and they don't know what calendar they're on anyway. It's usually Orthodox Jews. So, that's my take on it. My wife says that this year she thinks it's a Shemitah year because she's seen a lot of crops grow abundantly. Well, maybe it's true. I believe if she said she saw a lot of growth of crops abundantly, I wholeheartedly believe that. I'd go 10 on a 10 scale. That observation is correct, but does it mean it's a Shemitah year? I don't know. If this is a Jubilee year, that would be a Shemitah year, this current year. So it has possible, maybe potential, okay? The year of redemption being a Jubilee year makes a lot of sense. But is it mandated? I don't find a scripture that mandates it. And I know that the year of recompenses started on or around August 1st, give or take a few days. So that means recompenses would flow into the Jubilee year, which could be the case because there's recompenses on the nations. So yeah, that could be the case. Now I'm going to give you a lot of stuff today that is pretty solid on prophecy, okay? And I'm going to start out by covering the Houthi war, the snare. There's more than one snare operating here. There's a snare being placed on Israel, and America's in the snare, but I believe the leaders of America are walking America into the snare. And I'll try putting more pieces together on this today. I imagine I won't try, I'll be successful. And we're going to spend time in Isaiah 13:14, Isaiah 47, and we're going to look at these things. And we're also going to learn from the scriptures what happens in Lebanon, and they're relatively clear. Okay? They surrender. I know you won't. I'm not going to be like a church preacher or false preacher. And yeah, it appears they surrender. Or they get broken down. I'll show you the scriptures. All right, let's do our praise. There is no, being a Bible-believing site, there is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay? Now, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping in the live stream chat and make sure everything's going correctly. I'm going to do... All right, let me just briefly do a few fast things here, and I'll be talking to you while I do them. I'm not going to take a lot of time. Okay. Questions in the live stream chat are open, of course, and they're welcome. Just try to keep them rather relevant to what we're talking about. And I try to address them. I'm not here to create a vehicle for others to preach off-the-wall doctrines, so I'm not fond of people coming around and preaching left behind preacher raptures and nonsense, okay? So I've got to be responsible for that. So that's not what I'm here for. I'm not your vehicle to preach. You know, there's a lot of people that think, oh, the Lord's sending me out to preach, and they go in different chats and put their stuff up. Well, why didn't the Lord give you your own chat or your own website or your own TikTok or whatever? Why? You know, you're going on messing with another man's work. Scripture talks about that. Okay? So I don't know of any ministry like that. Okay? Almost there. All right. There's not that much chatter in Israel about the Houthi situation. They're not really focused on that in Israel. They're focused on Lebanon and Gaza, Hamas, and a little bit on Syria. We don't say Syria in Hebrew, it's Syria, but you know what it is, right? it's not likely that the Houthis are going to be able to hit us with missiles. They failed like 98% of the time. It has been detected recently that Iran transported drones and missiles to the Houthis. Now, are they more of the same or are they more advanced? You got me. Probably more advanced. Probably more advanced, but that remains to be seen. And they might, at some point during these hostilities, cut the internet cables, which they've threatened to do, and they run right by Yemen all over the place, and all they got to do is send divers out there with a hatchet from the hardware store or some silly thing like that. It's not difficult. And don't think that we cut it in one place. That we cut it in multiple places. Now, the countries of the world maintain ships. They're not warships. I'm finished in the chat. They're not warships. They're ships designed. I forgot one thing. They're ships designed to repair these internet cables. Now, they don't put these cables down, 2,600 feet or anything like that. They can't do that, okay? So these cables are typically laid not far from the shore, okay? And they might go down, 200 feet, even 300 feet or something like that, but not much, because they want to be able to repair them. So they don't, as far as I know, I don't think they have any that just run directly across the Atlantic without going to landmass places where it's shallow. I'm not an expert on this. From my investigations of a couple of weeks ago when the Houthis made the threat, it appears to me that the SWIFT banking system, that's the way they transfer money from one country to another, called international wire transfer. They don't do that inside the given country. They have other ways of doing it, but across from one country to another, it's a SWIFT system. And the SWIFT system, to the best of my investigation, uses the internet cables. It would have just been dastardly expensive for them to set up their own cable network. Now, the amount of banks using the SWIFT system is, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 banks or something like that. It's not like 5 or 6 billion people using the internet cables. The repair ships have to hover over the cable. They have various tools and divers and stuff, and they go down and they repair the cable. I think they cut the damaged portion, they make a splice, put it back together, and voila, it works again. There's, I don't know how many of these ships floating around, 5, 10, 20, I don't think it's 20, but maybe a dozen, I don't know. Small amount. They're not warships. They're about 200-300 feet long, depending on the ship. They don't have guns, missiles, and defense mechanisms. So if the Houthis were going to cut the cables in 3 or 4 or 8 or 10 locations, which it's easy for them to do, all their ocean borders are where the cables are. If they cut the cables, the internet communications between many countries of the world are going to go down. They're going to send ships to repair it, and how long would that take? Probably a week or more. And what the Houthis will do is shoot at the repair ships with drones, well, attack with drones, missiles, rockets, artillery, whatever they got. Put guys out in small boats and go out there and try to shoot shoulder fire weapons at them. They have naval drones. They got, So if you were working on one of these ships and they said, well, you make $50 an hour or $80 an hour, we'll pay you 160, would you go? See the problem? They might have to go up to $300 an hour, but there's a price when people are going to go. Okay? There's a price. And they got the money. So they will get people to go out there, and the Navy ships in the area from various countries will probably try to protect it. I want to tell you that one of the countries that will be, the countries that are going to be seriously affected by this are going to be, starting in Africa, you'll have many African countries, especially the ones by the east coast of Africa, where you'll have Egypt, Sudan, South Sudan, Djibouti, Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Kenya, Uganda, and others. It'll be a lot. And then when you go over to the other side of the Red Sea, you'll have Yemen, of course, will be affected, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Jordan, Israel. But Israel's up in the Mediterranean, so the effects on Israel aren't going to be that bad. Okay? They'll be affected, but it may not be very much. The same for Jordan and Oman. Maybe, no, not Oman. Oman and Saudi Arabia will get hit hard. Bahrain, Qatar will get hit some. Kuwait, some. Even Iran will feel it to some extent, And it'll affect Europe, too. Now, this is a massive problem if the SWIFT cables go out, and it will create chaos. Now, a long time ago when they did BRICS, Russia said they're setting up a system for the BRIC members to form a gold-backed trading currency. Now, a trading currency is not something that's money that winds up in your purse or your wallet. It's used by nations to make transactions with other nations in the BRICS system, inside BRICS only. How they would do this, they never released the details, but basically what I think they're striving for is to have two BRICS banks. They have, I think, I don't know where they are anymore. Could be Russia and China, I think. I think that's it. And the money, the gold, the best way to do it would be it gets physically deposited in this BRICS bank. They count the gold and they say, okay, you've earned 5 billion trading credits, or they'll call it a currency, BRICS dollar or BRICS pound or BRICS whatever, right? They could call it a BRICS mark or whatever. And then they could trade with other countries using this in the BRICS system only. And Putin said he's building, this is a long time ago already, a cable system like SWIFT for these transactions. So if I'm going to read into this, and I have no scripture for this, so it's just me, they would want the cables cut in the SWIFT system and the internet when Putin has this new system, the cables set up amongst the countries. Okay? Then it will serve to make them beaucoup richer, and many more countries will try to get in. Now, at some point, probably after these events happen, the BRICS people will try to make the nations in BRICS donate military to raise a force like NATO. This may or may not come, but believe me, it's in their minds. It may never come to pass. Or it may. BRICS may be the 10 horns of the beast. It looks good for that. Now, India's in BRICS, and India is not going to last long in BRICS. They'll pull out. This, I believe, the Lord showed me. India kind of walks alone, at least with Modi. Case in point, India's deployed 12 warships through the Red Sea area in the Indian Ocean to prevent piracy and attacks on ships that India cares about. They're going to and fro India with commerce. Modi is very worried about money. He's got a very bad, starving, poverty-ridden country. And he doesn't like what Iran did. Now, Iran and India are both in BRICS now. And there is a lot of tension. India is in no mood for what the Houthis have done, shutting the Red Sea. I understand 90% of the traffic going through the Red Sea is gone, so they're down to 10%. Well, countries friendly with the Houthis can pass ships through the Red Sea, like Russia, for instance, Iran, and that accounts probably for the 10% traffic. Other countries, I don't know exactly who. Probably Algiers. Quite a few are friendly with the Houthis, and they could run ships through it. But that's a pittance. So commerce is going down. Now, you have to understand what I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to have the scriptures pretty shortly. There's a lot of talk of famine and birth pangs. Now, Iran is sticking their toes in the water by attacking ships and commandeering them or pirating them and stuff like that. They're being threatened by various nations. They don't care about threats. You gotta give up on the threats with these people. They respect and understand brute force. They don't respect and understand threats because they make threats all the time that never happen. Even showing up at their doorstep with aircraft carrier groups isn't going to do it. We fly planes over Beirut regularly, and sometimes they break the sound barrier and the windows in Beirut break, and they're still coming. They're facing massive destruction messing with us, okay? Missiles, as these terrorist states use them, are terrorist weapons. They're typically almost all, if not all, almost all, are extremely inaccurate. What do I mean? If they wanted to hit, I don't know, let's pick a place, Fort Lauderdale, right? And let's say they were 10 or 15 miles away. They would hit Fort Lauderdale. If they wanted to hit a super Walmart in Fort Lauderdale, now I'm talking about a Walmart with 100 or 200,000 square feet or even bigger, with a parking lot for, in the front for 1,000 cars, and in the back they could handle 60 or 100 trucks at the same time, a big place. Could they hit that from 10 or 15 miles away? Some of the time only. They're not very accurate. Katyusha rocket types are the mainstay. They're put up on little immature metal launcher things that look like a triangle. They got a slope here. The missile goes on the slope. They got a base plate, a vertical to brace the slope. They put the missile in there and they, usually electronically detonated with a time delay, and it can go normally 8 to 12 miles, and it has the warhead of like a mortar or a small artillery shell, not a big warhead. If it hits a house, it can blow up the room in the house to some extent, not completely, but not the house. And this is the vast majority of the junk they use. Now, the Hamas have learned how to make better rockets, and they can get all the way up to Tel Aviv. So they're using more sophisticated rockets now. And that's Hamas making them in tunnels and places like that. Okay? The rocket launchers out of Hamas have tapered off at a rate of at least 90%. We get one rocket launch or two rocket launches a day, and that's about it. So it's drying up, and that's been good for Israel. But Lebanon, truly hating us, has tried to pick up the pace, and they're trying to do like 30 rockets a day. They're sick people, okay? We're guilty of being Jewish in the land of Israel to them, which is a demonic theme. All right, so the Houthis. Have you noticed that America for days was telling the Houthis they're going to get ready to attack them? During World War II, did you ever see Hitler or America or Italy or Japan go out and announce attacks like that? No. When they did bombing raids in World War II, like over Europe or Japan, they, the generals and the command centers would draw up the bombing plans. And then at the bases that were going to be involved in the bombing, they would usually be run by a general, maybe a one-star general or a full colonel or something like that, depending on the base. And they would get the plan classified as, like a top secret thing, maybe as much as 3-4 days or longer before the attack. But they would keep that under their hat and lock the papers into a safe, and they would share it with their staff that also had this high level clearance. And the pilots themselves and the guys that would command the different wings of the bombers and the fighter jets, they wouldn't know about it basically until they were ready to go out and do the run. So they might call them in a couple hours before they're going to go. If they're going to take off at 6 in the morning, well, let's say they were going to take off at 10 o'clock in the morning. They might call them in at 6 or 7 o'clock and brief them for 45 minutes or an hour and assign their targets to them. And then they would just go put their flight suits on and get ready and get in the plane and warm it up and get ready to go on the run. Sometimes they had 1,000 planes attack in one big bombing raid, or a lot of times it'd be 25 or 30. They created patterns for the bombers to fly in the latter part of World War II. And these bombers, for the time, had pretty good armament. I'll explain what they did. They had a nose gunner, which was under where the pilot was, in a glass bubble where he was strapped in, and he usually had a double 50 caliber gun. Now, at the very end of the war years, they got 20 millimeter guns, which is massively better, longer range, and way more devastating to a plane. But in the beginning, they were using 50s. Then under the belly of the plane, sort of more towards the front than the rear, but not by much, they had another bubble like that where a guy was strapped in, and he had double 50s. And then they had one at the tail, the very end, another bubble, and the guy there was strapped in, and he had sometimes a single or a double 50 caliber machine gun. They had tons of ammo in the planes. They didn't have a problem with ammo, right? And then on the roof of the plane, or the top of the fuselage, they had another bubble, and they had a gunner up there. Then, if that wasn't enough, they had door gunners around the middle of the plane on both sides. Usually they had a single 50 each. And they too would be strapped in and they would be shooting. Now, these guns were done with manual sights, which is like circles and stuff. And the gunners in the airplanes were highly trained. And they had a pretty good washout rate. They would train them to shoot skeet with shotguns. And if they couldn't shoot the skeet, they washed them out of the program. Then they, trained them with rifles to see how good they could shoot. Then they tried shooting skeet, and then they had them shoot something that was like the machine gun in a plane, and it was on a track, and not a very long track, maybe a quarter mile or something like that, half a mile, I don't know. And they would move it so the guys would be shooting from them moving at a stationary target, because sometimes they would be strafing a fixed target on the ground. Then they had them move, but then they had them stationary, and they had the target on a track moving, and they would hit it. And then they would do both, I imagine. So they would wash these people out if they couldn't handle it. So the guys that got in the gunners' positions in these planes were quite well trained. I think it was 6 or 8 weeks of shooting. They probably had several days of assembling and disassembling the 50 caliber gun, inspecting ammo. The ammo was belt fed. And they probably spent a week even learning all the ins and outs of how to repair the gun and change the barrels when it got too hot and all this other stuff, which they generally didn't do on airplanes, though, because the airplane was in altitude and it was pretty cold up there. So they didn't have to worry about the barrels overheating. And at times it would be, like very cold, like I don't know how cold, but cold. So if you're on the ground and you're shooting these 50s too fast and too many rounds, your barrel could melt. But if you're up in the sky and you're 50, 70 degrees colder than the earth, it's probably not going to melt, So they flew in a formation, and as long as they held that formation, German fighter or Japanese fighter planes, if they tried to come at them, they would get hit by somebody's guns. Interesting. So they don't use that kind of technology anymore. Although the fighter jets do have guns, they usually use air-to-air missiles or, stuff like that. So the days of the dogfight are not really there anymore. The pilots are usually picking up their bogeys, their adversaries, on a radar screen, and they're trying to lock in on it. And they might be firing missiles at the guy from, 3 miles, 8, 9, 11 miles away or something like that. So they probably don't even see the guy, So they are attacking the Houthis, but what they're doing is stupid, okay? We just went through this with Hamas. The war is like, 97 or so, 98 days old. Believe me, the Houthis are dug underground. They got underground bunkers. They got tunnels. We told them we were coming for days in advance, so they probably moved everything around that would make it hard to hit. They used subsurface attacks, which means they probably had submarines shooting missiles at the Houthis to give a good, realistic practice run to the submarines. They shot from the surface, which would mean surface naval vessels, not subsurface submarines, not that. And they used drones as well. And they hit a number of targets, and they probably caused some damage. They hit the capital. They cause damage. They show the Houthis that they can't bring their planes down. The Houthis claim to have taken down an F-22 Raptor jet, which is the best jet America has, and it's stealthy, quite stealthy. It's in multiple generations of use. I seriously do not believe they took an F-22 down. There's been no verifying reports of it or anything. I think that's a joke. Maybe they thought they took it down. I don't know, but they don't have that capability. And they're trying to hit the radar facilities of the Houthis. You can't put radar underground. It won't work. You got to have it above ground. But you can camouflage it, you know. I don't know to what extent they took out radar or not. The Americans are not really telling us what they targeted and what happened to the targets. You know, we'll find out, but we don't know yet. I'm sure they probably killed a few guys. And from what I understand, right after the attack, the Houthis went and attacked another ship fairly immediately after the American attack. So I can guarantee you that this did not deter the Houthis. They are not stopping because of this. This attack will reproduce again. It'll happen again. Probably with the same volume of, and you know, the same number of missiles and bombs and stuff will. I'm sure they bombed them from the air also. They'll do it again, and it'll have no effect. Then now they're going to damage property and stuff like that, and the Houthis are going to keep attacking. The Americans and the Brits are going to go through several rounds of this. Now, what is India going to do? India's 12 warships that will soon all be collected in the area by the Red Sea are not, they're not putting themselves under the American coalition. They're running their own show. Now, they're not going to attack America or Great Britain, and America and Great Britain aren't going to attack them. But they seem to be headed towards running their own attack on the Houthis, and at least one of their ships has commandos in there, so it appears they're going to try to do a land incursion. Now, if the Americans and the Brits call them up at the phone and nicely ask them not to do it, well, you know, Modi's going to say why and listen to him. He's not going to go into an adversarial role against them. You know, he's aware of enemy of my enemy is my friend, but he's not going to let them dictate to him. He is ticked about the money loss. Egypt is ticked because 20% of their national income for the whole country of Egypt is based on tolls that the ships pay when they go through the Red Sea and start to pass into the Mediterranean or vice versa. They've got to go through the Suez Canal and pay tolls to Egypt, which are expensive. So Egypt gets a lot of money this way, and 90% loss of shipping means 20%. Egypt's income is down 18%. You think they're happy? It's a poor country. They're not happy. Are they going to do anything? I doubt it. Not now. Maybe one day, but I don't think they're going to do anything. They don't have to in their minds. They'll just kick back and watch the coalition go to work. So there'll be several rounds of attacks from the air with drones, missiles, bombs on Yemen. They will try to down all the drones and missiles that Yemen launches at ships, including the coalition warships, they will defend against any small craft attacks against ships or naval drones as best they can. Now, don't believe that a anti-missile system is 100% effective. There's nothing like that. It doesn't exist. Some are going to get through. Now, all the Houthis have to do to effectively keep the traffic in the Red Sea down 90% is just to keep attacking ships. They don't have to hit the ship, although I'm sure they're trying to, because who the heck wants to send their 100, 200, 300 million dollar boat with, with that much cargo on it through the Red Sea and hope that the naval coalition knocks the missiles down? Nobody. Nobody wants to do that. It's dangerous. They know, look, big shipping companies, they hire people from intelligence services when they retire. I know this. I told you guys I worked in law enforcement and had different jobs in Israel, but I'm telling you, I've met these people. They retire from like MI6, CIA, and stuff like that. Military intelligence at a high level. And they get picked up by major corporations. You're talking Fortune 100, maybe Fortune 500. Usually the 100. The big guys, the real big guys, they hire these people. They usually get them lost in their company, like they'll put them in human resources or places like that. And they don't have 50 of them. They might have 3 or 4 or 2, something like that. Not many. And they give them a nice salary. Probably, as a guess, they're getting, a low of 125 to a high of 250, 300,000. Depending how highly placed the character was and what kind of ties he has with other countries' intelligence agencies and so forth. And the purpose of this is that these guys will have access to things like the executive yacht, the executive penthouses, the executive duck shooting retreat, the executive ski resort, and all the other things these big companies allow their maybe top 20 or 30 people to use. Okay? So they can entertain people over there, and they just sit down and say, look, I'm trying to help these guys. Can you give me some advice? What's going on in the Red Sea? What do you think's going to happen? And they'll give it to them. Because they know the guy is loyal and faithful to Great Britain or America, and those are the ones that seem to be in the most demand from the contacts I had, is American and UK people. But they could also get Israeli people, they could get German, they could get, they're not going to get people from Somalia or, Nassau, or Malta, or, Denmark. These people don't have enough. They're not what they're looking for. They were just a very, very big countries. France would probably be a player, maybe Italy, Japan. But then, it depends what part of the world the company operates in and stuff like that. They might even give these guys, if they found a guy that was really up there, they might give him $400,000 or $500,000 a year. Now, or more. They want to know what's going on. It's very important to them. So these guys will be advising the shipping company, and they have retired intelligence agents. Now, it could also be a guy quits. He worked there 12 years and he quit, got tired of it or something. If he has more than 10 years on the job, they'll take him. Now, they keep these guys as long as they can maintain contacts with the various intelligence agencies and get information. Over a period of years, their ability to suck up information gets dried up. Why? People quit, people get sick and can't work, people retire, people get killed. So when their contacts go, which is usually 5 years maybe, it might go 7, but it's not going to go 15 years. And they get rid of them, they put someone else in. So these are not retirement jobs, but most of these guys have retired and have a pension, and they know that. And they're not looking to work there 20 years. They're usually old. They're going to be like at least 55 or 60, and they want to work a few more years, and they want to make a good buck, pay their house off, pay their SUV off, take vacations, so they'll take the job. And they know they're not there for a long time, okay? Once their information dries up, they dry up. Now, this happens also, this is from my old days, when you're, let's say you sell artillery, okay? You sell radar-controlled, highly accurate artillery. These guns are $2-3 million a piece or something like that, right? And you're with a company somewhere in the world, it could be anywhere, that makes, thousands of these every year. And they need you to sell it. Well, they're not going to hire some kid out of college to go knock on doors and sell it, because he doesn't know what he's talking about. He hasn't been privileged to all the classified intelligence over the years as to what countries have this and that and what the countermeasures are. So they hire guys that come out of the military, that are retired, and they're usually looking for a minimum of a major. Mostly they're looking for light and heavy colonels, okay? And they hire them because they have contacts through NATO, with other countries, and they could promote business, and they could sit down with these guys and discuss classified information and explain to them why their gun is that good. Now, it doesn't have to be artillery. It could be missiles, rockets, radar, bombs, all kinds of things, okay? And there's a lot of military guys that take these jobs. And again, they're typically going to be good for maybe 5 years, maybe 7 years or something like that. Then their information is going to fall behind as out of date, and their connections are going to fall apart. People retire, they get sick, they die, they get killed, So they know that. So they're out of the military, they got a good pension. They're not making no big money. Somebody might hire them at something like what they paid in the military, so they might get, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year or something like that, And they use them for sales, support, making presentations, things like that. They want their connections and they want their classified knowledge. Now, the company they work for is going to give them security clearances, which the government hands out. But getting these guys security clearances is a piece of cake, because all they have to do is update their security clearance from when they were in the military. So it might only take a week for them to give them a clearance, or less. It's very easy. So they have a clearance, so they can discuss classified information with other countries, which a regular person can't do, So I'm just giving you a look into the world of how these intelligence people operate. Okay? I've met them from CIA, Mossad, other England, different and law enforcement people as well, and they talk to you. Surprisingly, you'd be surprised how they talk to you, and also you'd be surprised how sloppy they are when they try to conceal stuff. What a bad job they do. They really do a bad job. I've never seen a level of expertise that you see on Hollywood. I've never ever seen that. I've never seen undercover people work at that level like Hollywood in the movies. I never saw it. Okay? Now that doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but if it does exist, it's real small. Generally, they're sloppy, they're ill prepared, they drink, some of them will take drugs. That's not that common. They run with prostitutes, they party, they go to discos, they stay up all night. The ones that are married are not going to stay married long because they're not home much. This kind of thing. Now, the James Bond crap, that is generally not civilians. The agencies in intelligence have people that do that, but generally they use the military, Green Berets, Delta, SEALs, all these kind of special force people. They make them available to these intelligence agencies. And there are, I'm sure, a small amount of cases where they quit the agency, where they get out of the military and go to work for the agency and do these kind of ops. But, the James Bond assassin stuff, there's not a large amount of people like that, okay? And they're frequently inside the intelligence agency, and they frequently use the military. When they got to get out of some place after they did something, a lot of times submarines pick them up from the military. I'll be right back. Or Air Force people pick them up. So they work hand in hand. All right. So, what Biden is really doing with the Houthis is working the snare. Jeremiah 50:24 says that America has been put in a snare, the daughter of Babylon. That's America. If you don't know that, you got to go through my old videos on my channel. They're in this section live, and look for them. And usually the news comes first. Just fast forward through it. Okay, so Jeremiah 50:24, America's in a snare. And the snare is being worked by Biden. And now some of you are going to go into shock. How could that be? You give me one good reason why the border's open. And 70% of the people coming in are military-age males that look like they're in rather good shape. And the high estimate I got is 7 million. Based on ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, saying they got a backlog of 7 million. They're giving these people dates to report in the year 2031. So they give them, they come in the border, it's considered an illegal entry. They fill out the paperwork in Mexico for amnesty. They give them a map, show them where to go to the ICE office, Border Patrol. They go over there and they give them the paperwork, and they get approved and they get released, and they're basically legal until they don't show up in the court date in 2031. Now, there were videos saying that gun stores were told by ATF that they could sell these people guns without the criminal records check. Some lawyers that do the pro-gun videos about gun control laws in America said that they investigated it and it's not true. Now, they may have called ATF on the phone to see if they issued such an exception, and ATF may have told them something that's not true, or the agent that they spoke to didn't know. I don't believe this was a law. This was a policy, because they had no criminal background records on these people. They don't even really know who they are. So how the heck are you going to run a background check? But they did say it would be illegal for these people to buy a gun, but I never got to the bottom of this. I don't know which story is true and which isn't. Okay? The woman that did the video said that the husband owns a gun store, and that's what he was told. So I have not gotten to the bottom of this yet. But I have found that there's at least three police departments in America that are hiring these illegals. Okay, swearing them in, giving them a badge, an ID card, and a gun and handcuffs, the whole bit, right? Police powers, and arming them. And the lawyers that talk about this, they said that they verified this too, that these people are not entitled to own a gun yet. These police departments are arming them. And there's at least 3, and there's going to be more. Why would they hire them? Well, they're in on the snare or something, but the justification would be that they want these guys on the force because they could deal with the so-called illegal or questionable migrants or something better than a regular police officer could. And they probably have unusual language skills, and they would have to have at least broken English to function in a police department, you know. One would think. So that's pretty bad, okay? But the number of these people coming in is like 300,000 a month just at the Mexican border, approximately. Florida's taking a very huge amount. Nobody knows how many. They're coming in by sea. Florida could be taking in as many, could be taking in less, could be taking in more. So there's millions of these people. Now, what are they going to do? Did you ever hear a debate between anybody on Fox or CNN or any stations giving an argument why letting these people in when you don't know who the heck they are in massive amounts is a good thing for America. I have never heard such an argument. There can't be such an argument made. And why, when you look at all the videos of them, 70% or in some cases way more are all military-aged males. They could be IRGC, they could be Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthi, ISIS. They could be Chinese, Russian, North Korean, Venezuelan, Cuban. Who knows? Who knows? So you better understand that, or you're not going to know what's going on. Now, their predominant target is not going to be to come to your house with 20 or 30 of them and throw Molotov cocktails at you and shoot at you. They're predominant because if they did that, the military would eventually be activated in America and they would go after them. Now, if Biden is doing this, which he is, working the snare for the beast to burn the whore, okay, and eat her flesh, that's how Satan works. He's done it to us with Netanyahu. October 7th. So the Biden and Netanyahu worked together on this, and they're still trying to work together. They're trying to put a snare on Israel, but it's not going to work on Israel because Jehovah didn't put the snare here. They're trying to do it, and it's not going to work. It's not the right time. And it's not working. Look what happened to Hamas already. They can barely fire any missiles. Okay? They're having gunfights with the soldiers, which is injuring soldiers, I agree. But they're losing their capability by the day. And now we're gearing up with Lebanon. All right? So what is Biden going to do with the Houthis? There's going to be bombing runs. And then he's going to call for more military forces to come to the Middle East. Now, let's stop. Has China attacked, or North Korea, has China attacked Japan, Taiwan, Guam, Philippines, or anything? I mean, really attacked in the Pacific? Not at all. Have they created a threat against the American interests in the Pacific? Yes. Has it caused Biden to justifiably move military equipment, naval vessels, planes, etc., to the Pacific region? Yes. Has America ever engaged China in combat out there? No. Has North Korea threatened South Korea? Yes. Has it caused America to move more military resources out there? Yes. China does not have to attack Taiwan to get Biden to send the military out there because Biden's in on it with China, in my opinion. So China just has to make it look good. So they surround Taiwan with ships, fly into their airspace, blah, blah, blah. And China hasn't lost a single soldier, and America keeps deploying more military assets out there. Now let's go to the Middle East. Same type of thing is going on, but more bloody. More like Russia, Ukraine than it is China. China's very conservative, very careful, and they move slowly and deliberately, okay? And they are afraid of America. They don't want to see F-22s, B-1s, B-2s, F-35s flying over the skies of Beijing, dropping all sorts of ordnance, because they're probably not going to be able to defend against it. Now, Iran is stirring the pot massively. They fund Hamas, they fund Hezbollah, they fund the Houthis, and they're funding various militia groups in Iraq and Syria. And they're causing all this trouble. Have we seen America attack Iran? No. Is it common knowledge that you have to cut off the head of the snake if you want things to stop? Yes. Is the head of the snake in the Middle East Iran? Yes. Is America really seriously doing anything about it? Absolutely not. The only way they're going to stop the Houthis is to go in on a land invasion like we did with Hamas. The problem is the Houthis work with the Yemen government, and together they're 200,000. Hamas was the Gaza government, and they're 50,000, best case, when it started with the PIJ and so forth. So the Houthis are like 4 times stronger in numbers. They got, I believe, 40 million people living in Yemen, most of which would be Muslims, most of which would have a strong dislike for America, Israel, UK, and so forth. Okay? So going in on the ground to shut the Houthis down is something that they're not doing yet, but I think Biden's headed in that direction because it gives him an excuse to deploy a massive amount of American military resources outside of America, leaving America undefended. Biden has to be careful of a revolution popping up in America too quick, too soon, where the military turns against the Fed. So he has to make it look like there's a real need for us to put our fleet and planes and stuff in the Pacific to protect Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea and the Philippines. And he has to make it look that way in the Middle East to protect Israel. But he's not protecting Israel. They hate us. He's using Israel to work the snare. Okay? That's what he's doing. So the Houthis aren't going to stop. They're in on it. The Americans are going to eventually get to the point where they're going to have to go in by ground, by, a land invasion. They could go in through Saudi Arabia and they could land on a beachhead. And, they're going to move more naval vessels here, more planes, more troops, more bombs and stuff like that. The Americans have 58,000 soldiers now deployed in combined Saudi Arabia, Oman, Jordan, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, and that's it. Kuwait, I think I put Kuwait in there. 58,000. Think about that. These are all the countries comprised of Greater Israel that the Lord promised to Israel in the covenant he made with Israel to give him the land in Genesis 15, speaking to Abraham. It reads from the Euphrates to the Nile and, of course, the Mediterranean. And I believe, although there's no firm scripture, that it goes to the western, call it the western coast of the Persian Gulf. And that's where they're sprinkled. He doesn't have troops. He even has troops in Iraq and Syria. They're adversaries of America. He doesn't have much of anything in Turkey nor Lebanon. I don't think America has anything in Lebanon. Okay? Do you think that's to defend these countries from Israel because Satan knows it's end times and he's worried about that? If you thought about that, you're thinking correctly. So anyway, back to the snare. So he's still making it look good so the military gets on board. So they see all the Chinese aggression and they say, we got to send our resources there. And then it looks like it's working because China never really does attack. They just keep threatening. Same with North Korea. It's working. We keep the troops there, keep the boats and the planes there, right? Now, he's doing a similar thing by putting small amounts of troops now in various countries in Europe to fend off the Russian threat. Um, Denmark, Sweden, Lithuania, Latvia, a lot of those places, Poland, and stuff like that. So Russia has actually aggressively been attacking Ukraine, just like Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis have been aggressively attacking Israel. The Houthis tried a lot of times with missiles. They never got anywhere really, but they tried drones too. So when you're trying to shoot at Israel at a great distance, like the Houthis, there's so much time to interdict or intercept the missile, it makes it easier. When they're on your border, like Gaza and Lebanon, it makes it much more difficult. Because your warning is sometimes, 15 seconds, 30 seconds maybe. You don't have much. So you're going to take hits. So the Middle East is blowing up, as the Americans will put it, and Biden wants to put more and more military assets in the Middle East, as you'll see. The Houthis are they're going to start talking about they need a ground invasion, and they're going to move a lot of military resources here. Now there's wild cards. These people never get what they want, and things never go the way they think they're going to go. God doesn't let that happen. So they are now worried, or I guess, about what happens if India comes over there and invades the Houthis. See, Biden is not interested in destroying the Houthis, nor Hezbollah, nor Hamas. Every time Blinken comes here and you turn around, Blinken's trying to get us to stop fighting. Biden does not want to see Israel have a victory in Gaza. Biden wants to see Hamas and the PIJ remain in Gaza and the war stop. He further wants us to give them the West Bank, and he keeps telling us that's the only way we're going to get peace. They're afraid to take it back from us because they tried doing that stuff in 1948, attacking Israel, and they kept losing, and Israel kept getting more land. Then they got Israel to voluntarily give it back by putting tremendous pressure on us. We gave back Sinai Peninsula. That was bad. It got God angry, I'm sure. And then we gave back Gaza, and look how that blew up in our face. Can you convince the Israeli public today to give the West Bank back to the Palestinians? The chances of that is a zero. We all know what they did with Gaza, and we live here, and we all know what they'll do with the West Bank. Nobody's going to let that happen. The one that would want it to happen is Netanyahu and his appointed ministers, because they're working with Biden. And that's how the snares work. Satan gets the heads of the countries to turn against their own country, and the people don't realize it. You got it? That's it. It's not that hard. So, Biden's not damaging the Houthis, and if he goes for a ground invasion, then he will. But the Houthis are just the disposable assets. The top tier in this snare is China and Russia. That's the top drawer. They are supposed to be protected beyond. Has anybody attacked Russia homeland? No. Russia puts junky troops that they recently drafted into the war with Ukraine, and he uses old tanks and stuff like that. He's fine. Okay? He's fine. All right? Has China been attacked? No. They're fine. Has Iran, the next tier would be Iran and probably North Korea. They're two powerful, important players, but they're nowhere near China and Russia. And India's a wild card here, to me. India will be destroyed as per Jeremiah 30, verse 11, where it says God will destroy all the nations that he exiled or put into captivity, all the Israelites over the many centuries, and India's got loads of them. So they're going to go down. But I'm not entirely sure exactly how that'll happen. We'll have to watch. But Biden has no intentions of attacking North Korea. He's barely attacking the Iraqi militia and in Syria and Iraq. They've attacked his bases better than 100 times, and he barely did anything about it. He's not interested in killing them. And he's barely going to do anything about the Houthis. And he's not going to attack Iran, and he's not going to attack Russia. Russia may very well attack more countries in Europe, and that will be in a cover story for Biden to say, oh, we got to send another 100,000 or 200,000 soldiers. And he keeps weakening America's defenses, and then this axis of evil will attack America. But first, we got to deal with the sleeper agents, and their job is to take out the American military bases, which they'll do. Biden wants to keep the border open, and I couldn't understand for a couple of weeks why millions of these sleeper agents is not enough. And that's because you got about 350 million people in America, and you might see perhaps 20 or 30 million leave, but you've got over 300 million people. According to the scriptures, they're all going to die, so they got to get killed. So Biden wants a lot of manpower and so forth. Now, it says it will come suddenly in a day, but I think the suddenly in a day, it even says 1 hour, is the Whore of Babylon, which is the District of Columbia. Columbia is the statue of the woman in the Columbia Motion Pictures icon, standing on a pedestal with a torch, the light, come to the light, right? A flat-chested woman, which makes you wonder what kind of woman she is, and it matches the Statue of Liberty, which is, in their parlance, Columbia. And that seems to match the woman on the dome of the Capitol building. That's mad upon their idols, one small part of it. Okay? And the District of Columbia is that city in Revelation 17 because it's not part of any 50 states. The District of Columbia is the capital of America, and it's administered by Congress, not a state. It's not in a state. So you have 50 states plus this city. Even though you have 50 pentagrams on the flag, you only got one such city like that. And that's who I think is going to get destroyed in a day and an hour. The country is going to take longer. It says that they spoil the whole United States. Can you imagine how you could take the spoil? It says they won't be disappointed. Can you imagine how would they ever spoil the whole United States in one day? It says fires will burn in and about her cities. Well, can you imagine how that would happen in one day? It says they shall go in their holes and be afraid to fight. Well, it sounds like it's maybe more than one day. They'll be timid like women, it says. So, my guess is that, and it's a guess right now, is that it's just the daughter of Babylon that's going to go in an hour and a day. The city, Washington, D.C., the rest of it will go. And when you read it, you see the leader of America in Jeremiah 50:51 give his hand, which means he surrenders. So imagine Biden doing the snare, and all this bad stuff happens, and he just goes, okay, I surrender. And that's why the people are sitting in their holes, because he surrenders everything. He gives them the military. He'll do an unconditional surrender. He's in on it. So the people don't know what to do. Their military turned them in. No, they still got to deal with the police, the highway patrol, the state police, all that stuff, federal agents, and they got to kill all the people there, and that's going to be a big effort. So he probably maybe wants 9 or 10 million people or something. I don't know. I don't know. Or he's looking for some other equipment to come in. I don't know, but he's obviously delaying because he wants that border open for a longer period of time. Will they eventually do a ground invasion in the Houthis? Maybe never. They might. I don't know. I don't know. Iran is getting close to shutting the Persian Gulf. They're watching the Houthis fight America. And when they watch that for some days, maybe a week or two, they'll try to see what... You see, Biden's got to make it look good. Iran wants to see if the new missiles and drones that they gave to Yemen are going to be effective against the Navy boats. Biden can't go tell the commanders and the captains on the Navy vessels, go get yourself killed. They'll cause a revolution of the Navy, of the American military against the federal government and all their plans to get rid of the daughter of Babylon and burn her flesh and eat her flesh and burn her is going to fall apart. So he has to make it look good that the enemy is really an enemy and that he is really trying to do the right thing. He has to make it look good. He knows what he's doing. It's his administration too. It's not that he doesn't understand what he's up against. He does. He's in on it. Okay? So he really doesn't have much interest in attacking Iran, the Houthis, so much, because these people are going to be coming to America. Now, as I understand it, you're going to see an attack on America from these sleeper agents. I think everybody knows that. And their best move would be to take over the military bases, which are poorly protected. And it appears they'll destroy them. Will they confiscate military equipment and use that against America? It's a possibility. I don't know the detail on that. But they do seem to destroy it. And the whole military in America gets killed. And that's going to take, to really overrun and control a base, considering these guys are almost all unarmed except for the military police. They're going to get killed. These, you're going to have to send several thousand of them to take out a base. And they're going to do it probably suddenly in one day. To do the bases, they got to coordinate and hit all the bases at the same day. Otherwise, if they only hit half the bases, the other half will rise up, and if they start getting orders from the Pentagon to stand down, surrender, they'll go into revolt. And if they go into revolt, they could overthrow the government, execute the culprits, and bring the country back, and they don't want that. So their loyalty is to the unclean spirits, not America. You got to get that down. Okay? And they think that Satan's a god and the unclean spirits are gods. And what they tell them is like the gospel, and they will believe, rely, and trust on the unclean spirits stupidly. They think probably Satan won when he killed Yeshua, had the Jews and the Romans kill him. I'm not going to get into what they think, because they're under a delusion, and the delusion's from Jehovah. So it's not a real productive, energy for us to sit there and try to figure out what they believe. their beliefs have probably changed over the years, and there's probably different versions given to different people by Satan. So, I don't want to sit here and dwell on that. It's what's Jehovah going to do that's important. I'm going to take a fast break, and we're going to get into some scriptures. I'm going to show you what happens in Lebanon. What happens in Gaza is fairly evident already. Now, the Lord gave me something I need to show you guys that I'm afraid are going to irritate some of you, maybe not many of you, but it's going to irritate some of you, and it involves Donald Trump. Donald Trump basically impersonates being a Catholic and stuff like that. Okay? Donald Trump is serving the unclean spirits, the same ones that Biden is. Donald Trump never did much of anything when he was president. He never got rid of Obamacare. He never did a lot of things. In some ways, he was better. And he kept pushing Israel for a two-state solution. Constantly. He never stopped. That's not God. That's the devil. He can't go up to heaven and attack Jehovah and Yeshua, so he attacks his people down here. All right. A two-state solution is a kiss of death for Israel. And they want God to be mad at Israel, so they want Israel to give it back. Push comes to shove, there's going to be a time where Satan's going to say, no, we're going to take it. But, all right. So, Biden is sinking the ship. Trump is serving the same gods as Biden. He's in on it. And he's giving hope to America. So why overthrow Biden when all you got to do is wait for the next election and then Trump will get in? How could Biden possibly win against Trump? Then they start floating stories that Biden may not run and all this stuff. Look, for us, time is too short. There's never going to be another election in America, all right? But Trump is there for hope. So what about all those criminal cases Biden instigated, apparently, or his administration was in power while these cases started, is the most accurate, objective way to explain it. But does Trump seem troubled or bothered by all these criminal cases? No. Is he Superman? No. Is he immortal? No. Why does it not bother him? It's not real. It's not going to, he knows nothing's going to happen. He knows what's going on. He's highly placed. He's one of them. Remember how he was talking about jailing Hillary, and then they caught him on an open mic saying, no, that was just for the election. You know, he's friends with the Clintons. He's not trying to bag them. Did Hillary ever go to jail? Crooked Hillary? No. No. Trump is there to give the people hope so they don't try to overthrow Biden before he could finish this. See, what Biden's worried about is the militia. Years ago, the militias had 6 million people. They have better guns than the military. Training is probably superior. They got all kinds of survival equipment and supplies. And this is a real problem to what Biden is about to do. Now, those militias are probably up to at least 7, 8, 9 million people by now. And you'd be surprised how many, let's call them gun enthusiasts, survivalists and preppers that would join in with the military if the eggs are hitting the fan. So they got to deal with that. Now, they use the, like Tor, you know, the underground internet for their communications with heavy encryption. They're pretty careful about concealing what they're doing from the Fed. They don't go out on social media and talk about what they're up to. And, you know, they're pretty protective of their own secrecy. And a lot of these guys are ex-special forces and stuff like that, and they can pack a punch. Okay? So that's one good reason why Biden wants to bring more and more people in. Now, the way I see it developing is they're going to attack the military bases in Washington, D.C., and probably government offices as well, early on, like a surprise attack. And that'll cripple the military because the military is not going to be giving orders anymore. So the ships and the soldiers that are abroad outside the country are going to be confused. How are they going to fight? They're not going to know who to fight, when, where, how. No orders coming in. Now, if they get fired on, they'll probably try to shoot back. But that's not going to be significant. They're not going to be able to work as a team because they're not getting orders, and they'll start fighting with each other as to what to do. After this happens, then they're going to have to clean up the militia, the survivalists, and the preppers. They failed to get the guns out of their hands. And when you think about it, you know, there's way more guns than people in America. And they're going to kill everybody in America. I don't see how they're going to do that in one day. Fire will kill them for sure. But they're also in their holds afraid to fight and stuff like that. So will it all happen in one day because it's really going to be done with fire and not that? It could be. I don't have 100% knowledge of this, but this is what I will tell you that we do know. They will spoil America. They're going to take a great spoil, and the spoilers are not going to be disappointed. Now, how the heck are you going to loot, plunder, and pillage America in one day? This has me stunned. I don't know how you could do it. There's so many wealthy places in America. Let's talk about them. They're not going to go to banks and take paper money. I mean, come on, let's get real. That's a joke to them. They're going to want to go after gold and silver. So they'll try to hit the Federal Reserve vaults. And they're going to want to go after other gold, silver, precious stones, stuff like that. They're also probably going to want to take expensive cars, expensive furniture, uh, expensive liquor and wine, and things like this, clothing, furs, all expensive, expensive. So where are these things? Well, they're in, like Beverly Hills. San Diego has rich neighborhoods. Bakersfield even is going to have rich, communities. San Francisco is pretty well kaput. Sacramento, all the state capitals are going to have rich neighborhoods. Museums, they might take art gallery. The diamond centers around the world, the jewelry centers, gold merchants, silver merchants, the mints where they mint coins. Do they mint coins made out of silver anymore? No, I don't think so. They're not going to bother with that. All of these things. They might want to go to banks and break into the vaults. They're going to want to take guns. People's expensive hunting rifles, scoped rifles, pistols, ammo supplies. They're going to want that stuff. These are fighters. They're going to want it. Expensive clothing. Jewelry is very valuable, so they'll hit Cherry Hill, New Jersey's, the Miami, rich areas in Miami, the rich areas in Atlanta, in Fort Worth, and Dallas. There's probably at least 100, if not 300, wealthy cities that need to be hit. And if you just burn the houses, you're not going to be able to get the spoil. The spoil from the military bases is military equipment. That doesn't lend the test of spoil. Spoil is clothing, food. You could consider livestock animals, that expensive racehorses and things like that. They're probably going to have to bring a massive amount of ships here. So the sleeper agents will get everything kicked into the gear, but then you'll see China, North Korea, Russia, and other countries send ships and planes into America with sophisticated equipment, and these will have the commanders that will call the shots. And it's probably going to take some days, maybe not a month, maybe a week or two or more, maybe, I don't know, for them to loot, plunder, and pillage. Now, famine. We read about famine hitting America. Well, they're shutting the Red Sea already. We're seeing Iran begin to shut the Persian Gulf, and they've threatened to close the Mediterranean. Turkey is already partially kind of messing with the Bosphorus Straits. So they shut off enough of these waterways, the Mediterranean, Red Sea, Persian Gulf, and you're going to see a lot of food not making it into America. Now we got to look at the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal brings a lot of food from Central South America. Basically South America, I think, would be more accurate. And it's in dire straits. It's backed up for months. How hard would it be for one of these characters to hit the Panama Canal? Panama has no military. They guard the country with the police, which are basically 9mm pistols and a few AR-15 rifles and Uzis and stuff like that. They have no Air Force. They have no Navy. They don't have artillery. They don't have missile defenses. They don't have anything. Militaristically speaking, they're like a security guard at a mall without a gun. There's Chinese, Russia, and other axis of evil troops already in Nicaragua, close to Panama. So they'll knock out the Panama Canal, but why knock it out? They'll just control it for their own use. America's not sending any troops into Panama. They don't have anything there. It's a sitting duck. That's one great way to get famine going, combined with the fires. Now, they'll burn agricultural land as well as the cities, and there won't be fire. It's pretty simple to see it. It's not hard. That'll get you your fires. That'll get you your famine. Okay, now we'll get into the Bible. Okay. Let me check the chat for questions or whatever. That won't take but a minute. Someone says they're hiring them for police here in Chicago. There you go. There's a few places, and that's probably going to be expanding. That's what it is today. Okay. Well, I'm going to show you a couple of good things from Isaiah 13, including the outcome of the Lebanese war, which is cool. Isaiah 13:1. The burden of Babel, or you see the word Babylon is really Babel in Hebrew. It means confusion. It says here Babylon. As you'll see, it's the daughter of Babylon, and I'm going to bring that out to you, that it's not old Babylon, which Isaiah, the son of Amos, did see. Lift you up a banner upon the high mountain. Exalt the voice unto them. Make the hand that they may go in. Make the hand. Shake the hand that they may go into the gates of the nobles. That means they're invading the wealthy homes, Beverly Hills, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, all these places in America. You got it? I have commanded my sanctified ones. Now, let's look at that word sanctified. It's kadosh, which we would merely say holy. Kadosh Kadashim is holiest of holies. Kadashim is the plural of kadosh. I have commanded, and then it says my sanctified ones. It doesn't say that in the text. It says holy. I have commanded my holy. I have also called my mighty ones. Now, let's check that word. 1368, Gabor, or Gavor. Strong, powerful. Mighty's okay on that one. For mine anger, let's check that word. Whoops. Anger, 639. Up is the word in Hebrew. Literally, it's the nose or the nostril. Got gross there, sorry. But it could also mean the face by implication. I have commanded my kadosh, holy. I have also called my mighty for, and it doesn't say for mine anger, mighty one's face or nose, even them that rejoice in my highness. Since they've been messing with the words here, let's check this. Even them that rejoice. Elites, which is kind of accurate. In my highness, 1346. Oops. which is gavar. Arrogance or majesty. Them that rejoice, and they're saying in my highness, and it doesn't match the text. It doesn't say in my. Gavar, ugh, this thing keeps giving me trouble. Arrogance, majesty. They're messing with the meaning of this here. It's really saying, my anger means face or nostril. And it seems to have rejoice. And it says arrogancy or majesty. I think it means rejoice in arrogancy. They've really twisted this one up. Okay, let's keep going. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered. Now, America has a lot of mountains. Gathered together, Jehovah of armies mustereth the armies of the battle. He's doing it. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even Jehovah and the weapons of his indignation, of his anger, to destroy the whole land. Howl ye, for the day of Jehovah is at hand. This is Gog and Magog. This is Joel 1, 2, 3. This is Zechariah 14. This is Zechariah 8 to 11, and so forth. This is Ezekiel 38, 39. Howl ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. So Jehovah's doing it. So don't start. When you start sitting there, thinking how horrible it is, what I'm telling you, you're going against Jehovah. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt. And they shall be afraid, pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. And that's interesting, flames. The Lord says he'll kindle a fire about the cities and they're going to burn. So that makes a lot of sense. Behold, the day of Jehovah cometh, cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate. And that's not Israel, that's America. That's America. And he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. The sinners are not escaping. And the word for sinners is chata. Basically, I think it's a decent translation. Guilty, criminal, offender, sinner. Okay. I don't think it means just criminal. It's people that are not in the criminal justice system that are breaking God's ways. Because there's many things you could do that are lawful in America that break God's ways. Many. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. And I will punish the world for their evil. So this is going to be the whole world getting punished. This is the year of recompenses, and it seems to be in the same time frame as the daughter of Babylon getting it. Punish the world for their evil. Now, none of this ever happened with the original Babylon, which is Iraq, and the land there was never made desolate. There's people still living there. They got like museum stuff popped up where it used to be monuments and things like that. And I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their lawlessness, iniquity. And I will cause the arrogance of the proud to cease. Those are your espots. And will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible, the warriors. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. Ophir had some highly desirable gold. Therefore I will shake the heavens. Now the word for shake is 7264 ragaz, and it can mean, let's get there, quiver, violent emotion, anger, disquiet, shake, tremble. So he will disquiet the heavens, or shake the heavens, and the earth shall be removed. So it sounds like it's a physical shaking. Let's check the word for removed. It says the earth, and that means the land. There's another word for earth in Hebrew, that's not it. It could mean the world, and it could also mean the land of Israel. Very, very frequently it means the land of Israel. Shall remove out of her place in the wrath of Jehovah of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger. Well, it could be. And it shall be as the chaste foe. Remember, it says the sun will be 7 times stronger at some point, so maybe we go closer to the sun. And it shall be as the chaste roe, and as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people, and flee every one into his own land. This is extremely consistent with Jeremiah 50:51, where the people that are not from America, they're working as sowers and harvesters, for fear of the sword, go back to the countries they came from. Now I'm in verse 15. Everyone that is found shall be thrust through, and every one that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. Pretty self-explanatory. Nobody lives when this big attack comes. It's over. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their house shall be spoiled, and their wives ravished. That's rape. That's, you read that, the spoiling the houses and the raping or the ravishing of the women is Zechariah 14. The first two verses of Zechariah 14. Behold, I will stir up the Medes, and you can look at a map of the Median Empire. Iran's in there and stuff, you know. I will stir up the Medes again in parts of Russia and things like that. Against them, Azerbaijan and Armenia, I believe, are in there. I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver and gold. They shall not delight in it. This could be the Muslims, the Islam warriors, you know, the extreme terrorists, I guess you would call them. Today, the Russian army's not going to set aside gold and silver, nor would I think the Chinese army, nor would I think the North Korean army. I would think just the Muslim terrorist states. It's a big murder campaign, but they're also taking a big spoil. Shall not regard silver and gold, they shall not delight in it. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces. Now, I have to say, I think here, because we're at such a late date, that these weapons described are allegorical. I'm not believing America's going to go back to the Middle Ages anytime soon right now. I can't see it. I could be wrong, but I'm not seeing it. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Now, remember what they did to us on October 7th, and then you'll have your picture there. Their eyes shall not spare children. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldeans. The Chaldeans were the ones that lived in Babylon. They were soothsayers, you know, like witches, fortune tellers, star readers, what's that, astrology, you know. Excellency, the Chaldeans' excellency shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, they got burned up, didn't they? It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. This never happened before. This Babylon, the old Babylon, is still occupied. It didn't happen. It's yet to be fulfilled. From generation to generation, neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherd make their fold there. I think he's talking about Arabian because a lot of them are going to be in the invasion into America. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures. So the critters are going to be living in the houses because all the people are dead and nobody else is going to live there. And owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there, and the wild beasts of the islands shall cry their desolate shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. Now we're going to get interesting in Isaiah 14. For Jehovah will have mercy on Yaakov. He's the father of the 12 tribes. So it's basically, I think, the 12 tribes. And will yet choose Israel, that's the 10 tribes, or it could mean the whole 12, and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them. Now that's the believers in Yeshua that are not native Israelite born, but in Yeshua you're in Israel, and it says all Israel shall be saved. And when you read Ezekiel 47, the last 3 verses, which I'm not going to do here today, you'll see them coming in the second Exodus here, and they get an equal share of the land according to the tribe they sojourned with, and they become as native-born Israelites. Okay? And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Jehovah for servants and handmaids. Now, this is like Isaiah 60 to 66. This is not you as Jewish believers possessing non-Jewish believers. It's the ones that are not believers. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, bring them to Israel. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Jehovah for servants and handmaids. Well, they're happy to be there because their own country is messed up and wrecked. And they shall take them captive, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. And it shall come to pass in the day that Jehovah shall give thee rest from the sorrow and from the fear and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve. Well, I could attest to that all happening now and before, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babel, and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. Jehovah hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations with anger is persecuted and none hindereth. That's Satan that's ruling the nations with anger. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Now, when we read stuff like that, the whole earth is at rest, it would have to mean that Jeremiah 30, verse 11, which is associated with the birth pangs and Jacob's trouble and the birth of a nation in a day, in Jeremiah 30, has happened. Or why, if it didn't, why would the whole earth be at rest? Let's look at the word rest. See how Strong's treats the word. Rest sounds like a good translation. The whole earth, the earth is land of Israel, is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. This is likely. Let me get into this deeper. Whole earth, coal, all the land. I think it's referencing Israel. You know, kol ha'eretz, at rest and quiet, they break forth into singing. Yea, my take is the land of Israel. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no fellow is come up against. Okay, what happens to Lebanon? Here it is. Israel's at rest. So whatever happened to Lebanon happened. Yea, the fir tree rejoice at thee, probably at Israel. And because the whole creation groaneth for the redemption. And that's part of the creation. Rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no fella is come up against us. Now, what is the word for feller? F-E-L-L-E-R, 3772. It has the connotation of cut off. So, let's see how Strong's treats it. The word is cutting off or destroying. Thou art laid down, 7901. Shakab, lie down. How does Strong's treat the word? Oh, gosh, this thing is so annoying. All right, laid down. Let's see how Strong's treats it. Okay, where did Strong's go? Here it is. It can mean deceased or laid down at rest. Speaking of Lebanon, it says, since, what's that word? You know, since that time, laid down, no means no, well, fellers come up against us. So something happens to Lebanon. Either they lay down their weapons or they're cut down. And I have a feeling they're cut down. I said they would surrender. No, it doesn't look that way. Sorry. Looks like they're cut down. Laid down means cut down. The fella word has a connotation of cut. It's saying no cutter off, no destroyer is come up against us. So that means they're done. So it looks like there's going to be a big attack on Lebanon. Hell from beneath is moved for thee, to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth the dead for thee, even the chief ones of the earth. It had raised up from their thrones the kings of the nations. Now this is Sheol, not the lake of fire. All they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down, so their arrogancy is brought down to the grave. Oh no, this is speaking of Satan. And the noise of thy vials, the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground? Which didst weaken the nations. Cut down to the ground. The word is eretz, is thrown down. For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven and will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. This could have been when he was trying to get the people to build the Tower of Babel, the original one. I will ascend above the height of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Didn't work. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell. That's using this Sheol. Yeah, in this case it's Sheol. To the sides of the pit. Not the lake of fire. They that see thee shall now. So he's in the pit for 1,000 years. They that see thee shall narrowly look. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, this, the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake the kingdoms. That's Satan. He's running all the kingdoms of the earth. That made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof. That's your Jeremiah 30:11. All the nations, like what, 125 of them that he dispersed the Jews into, get destroyed. When the nations come to attack in Gog and Magog, Ezekiel 38, early on it says 1/6 of them shall be left in the country they originated from. 5/6 are cut off. So of course the nations fold. They don't have enough population to run it. Then the people start bringing the Israelites. Israel is an offering unto the Lord, and they stay there as servants and slaves. Arise, shine, your light has come. The glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. Darkness covers the earth. So they want to be in Israel. Israel's going to have food, water, peace, joy, light, as a wilderness, and destroy the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners. Okay? Yeah, it's this describing Satan. All the kings of the nations, even all of them, lie in glory, every one in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy graves like an abominable branch. He's saying that they all have their grave they lay in or something, and the kings would have an elaborate grave, I'm guessing. But thou art cast out of the graves like an abomination, an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden under foot. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land and slain thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land and slain thy people, the seed of evildoers, the tares, sons of the devil, shall never be renowned. Again, they're never going to make it. Prepare slaughter for his children, for the Satan's children, those are the tares in Matthew 13, for his children, for the lawlessness of their father, that they do not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. That was what Satan did. That's why they're all going to go. For I will rise, many reasons they're all going to go. One big reason is how they treated the Israelites when they were dispersed there. For I will rise up against them, saith Jehovah of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name and remnant and son and nephew, saith the Lord. All their heritage is gone. I will also make it a possession for the bittern and the pools, water, and will sweep it with the besom of destruction, saith Jehovah of armies. The Lord of armies hath sworn, saying, surely as I have thought, so shall it come to pass, and as I have purpose, so shall it stand, that I will break the Assyrian in my land, that's Israel, and upon my mountains tread him underfoot. Then shall his yoke depart from off them. See, that's when the yoke comes off at the battle. Yoke depart from off them, and his burden depart from off their shoulders. And that's the burden that Satan's people from our own internal government and the foreign governments put on us. This is the purpose that is proposed. That's an interesting word. I've never used it. Purposed. That's English. Resolve, or let's see. This is the purpose, or the purpose. The purpose, spelt wrong, I think, of what it means. That is purposed upon the whole earth. And this is the hand that is stretched out upon all the nations. That's Satan. He puts a yoke on all the nations. For the Lord of hosts hath purposed, and who shall disannul it? And his hand is stretched out, and who shall turn it back? In the year that King Ahaz died was this burden. He's just telling you when he got the message. Rejoice not thou whole Palestina, because the rod Because the rod of him that smote thee is broken. When he's saying the whole Palestine, he's talking about the land of Israel when it becomes Israel, real Israel, when it's born in a day. The rod of him that smote thee, that's Satan and all his messengers and servants, for out of the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery flying serpent. And the firstborn, I think that's allegorical, and the firstborn of the poor shall feed. Let's see what the firstborn means here. What are they talking about? Becker, that's first fruits. The Bakor, it's pronounced the Bakor, that's first fruits. And the first fruits of the poor, what is that first fruits? First fruits of eternal life. When you see him, you shall be like him. John 6:40, those that believe and see him shall have eternal life, right then and there. And what happens in Zechariah 12:10? The Spirit is poured out on them. Now they're believers. Then they see the one whom they have pierced, and they mourn for him. That's the word means first fruits, not firstborn, those jackasses. First fruits of the poor. It's the poor and the downtrodden and the bent over, the feeble. They're the ones that are going to get it, the eternal life. Shall feed, and what does that word mean? It doesn't mean feed. It's close, but not right. Pasture or tend a flock. It's kind of like tend a flock. What does the word poor mean, really? Let's take a look. Dal. The low, the weak. Let's get Strong's take on this. Put it in English. The weak, the thin, the needy, the poor, the weak. This is not the big, heavy cattle. These are the cattle that get pushed by the big, heavy cattle. The big, heavy cattle are the rich Satan bots, and the poor people, the ones that get pushed around by them. Shall feed on the Bakor of the weak, shall feed, and the needy, what is that word? Coupon. I think this word's correct. Those that want destitute, poor. Yeah, it's okay. The poor shall feed, and the needy shall lie down in safety. And I will kill thy root with famine, and he shall slay the remnant. I think he's speaking of the bad ones. Howl, O gate, cry, O city, thou whole Palestina art dissolved. What the heck does that mean? Mug. Flow down, disappear, consume. Okay, this is the new heaven and the new earth, which comes at the end of that day. The whole Palestina art dissolved, for there shall come from the north a smoke, and none shall be alone in the appointed times. What shall one then answer the messenger of the nation, of the Goyim, that the Lord hath founded Zion? That's the birth of the nation in a day. Jeremiah 30, birth pangs leading to the travail. Got it? The messengers of the nation that Jehovah hath founded. What's the word for founded? Established, laid down. Zion, and the poor of his people shall trust in it. The poor, the feeble, the lame, the bent over, the blind, it seems like I'm right in there, are the ones that are going to be there. So I would have to be that way, wouldn't I? Not for long, but for now. Okay. One more passage. We're going to do Isaiah 47, which goes quick, which is destruction of the daughter of Babylon. But I want to jump into the chat. Make sure I don't need to do anything in the chat. And I don't. Okay. Isaiah 47:1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babel. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. That could be telling her to mourn because her children are dead, or it could be humbling her. 47:2. Take the millstone and grind meal, no longer rich with servants. Uncover thy locks. Make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered. Now, one of the things that could mean, I'm thinking of the right word. You know what they say about Michelle? Well, there's a ton more like Michelle. Yea, thy shame shall be seen. Ditto. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man. As for our Redeemer, Jehovah of hosts is his name. The Holy One, it says Kadosh, I believe it says Kadosh. Let's check it. Kadosh, I had it right. Kadosh Israel, Holy of Israel. The word for name is Shem, which means name. You shouldn't say Baruch Hashem. That's what the rabbis teach the Israelites to do, to blot God's name out. Blessed be the name. What name are we talking about? His name's Jehovah. Don't do that. Sit thou silent and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans. For thou shalt no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms. Well, what lady? Like the Statue of Liberty lady? The Lady of Kingdoms. I was wroth with my people. I have polluted mine inheritance and given them into thine hand. Well, before 1948, there were more Jews there in America than anywhere else, I would say, in any other country. And then we could talk about the North American Indians being lost tribes, but that's another whole big discourse. Thou didst show them no mercy upon the ancients, and the word for ancients is Saken, aged. This could mean the North American Indians with the Trail of Tears and all the other crap they pulled on the Indian Wars, you know. Satan might have known very well the North American Indians were lost tribes and had his America annihilate them because it would give him protection in his sick, demented mind. And given them into thine hand, thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke. Oh yeah, he did that. They're still under that yoke on reservations. And now I grew up in America and I suffered a lot of discrimination too, but nobody threw me on a reservation, you know. And thou saidst, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart. Neither didst remember the latter end of it. Therefore, hear now this, thou that are given to pleasures. that dwelleth carelessly, that saith in thy heart, I am, and no one else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow. Widow, no longer married to the land. The land's going to be desolate. Okay, not going to be there. Neither shall I know the loss of children. Children are the S-bots. America's loaded with them. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. So maybe the place does get destroyed in one day. I don't know. Maybe the Chinese have thousands of these balloons that really can start fires. I don't know. Maybe the Lord kindles the fire and he does it. Yeah, I can't give you one way or the other, but I can tell you I'm perplexed how they could kill everybody, like it talks about them, killing the children, all that, and spoil the place and get the spoil out of there in one day. It perplexes me. I don't know how that could be. So now you know what I think. But I could be wrong, And one day the loss of children and widowhood they shall, so it means widowhood, the land's desolate in one day, I guess. They shall come upon thee in their perfection. For the multitude that come upon thee in perfection, they're already in America. There's 7 million already in there. 70% are sleepers. They're already there. For the multitude of thy sorceries, oh, the sorceries are there like crazy. And the great abundance of thine enchantments. Oh, they run everything that way. For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me. Now, they're wrong. It all gets written down in a book. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it hath perverted thee. Oh, yeah. And thou hast said in thy heart, I am and none else beside me. They don't think it's ever going to stop. Therefore shall evil come upon thee, thou shalt not know from whence it riseth. Yeah, because it's coming from within the borders. That's why they don't know it. And mischief, that's like evil, shall fall upon thee, thou shalt not be able to put it off. And desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Stand now with thine enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. Thy youth, what does that mean? Well, Ben Franklin and George Washington were Masons. If so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail. God's mocking them. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. And that's probably going on now, but Biden, I believe, is working the snare against his own country. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly procrastinators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. They can't. Stop, Chief. It's not time yet. No. Behold, they shall be as stubble. The fire shall burn them. There it is. They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. There shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to sit before it. Thus shall they be. Maybe the two witnesses burn the place up. There's things I don't know, and I'm telling you what I don't know. Thus shall they be unto thee with whom thou hast labored. I don't see the two witnesses burning them up, though. Maybe they're there. I don't know. They're there to help them get out of it. I'm not sure. I don't know. But we'll find out all the details. Pray that the Lord gives us more details, and He will. Pray that He gives them to me, and I'll share them. Thus shall they be unto thee with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants from thy youth. That's the connection to Revelation 17, or 18 it would be rather. They shall wander every one to his quarter, none shall save thee. Okay, so do I need to do something else that I didn't do? I have notes. I'll check my notes and cheat. Let's see, get my cheat sheet out, as they call it. Before the great day of the Lord's going to happen, guys, we need to have the Elijah minimally working openly, but the two of them will be working openly at the same time, John the Apostle. And we need to have the temple there. And that's not yet in place, so bear that in mind. Now, Biden and America might actually do engage. It's a possibility that they will engage in the Pacific and the Middle East and Iran and in Europe. Part of the snare might be to have the military get destroyed and really bogged down there. It may not be just stationed there. It could evolve into actually getting them involved. They're going to try to preserve China and Russia as much as possible. Iran would be very difficult to damage. Oh, prayer request. We have a dog. Now, we pray for pets and they very often get healed. Quite common, okay? The dog's name is Jed. Jed, like, let me tell you a story about a man named Jed, poor mountaineer, barely kept his family Beverly Hillbillies. He's not a Beverly Hillbilly, he's a dog. Dog named Jed, prayer for healing, to be able to walk better, and to get rid of kidney stones. Dog named Jed to walk better and get rid of kidney stones, healing. Okay? So is it really going to happen in a day and an hour, suddenly, the whole thing? I guess it says that. I don't know how. Maybe after they kill everybody, they go around and collect the spoil. You know, but we'll pray for more details, and I'm sure we'll get it. Okay? All right, so I'm Moshe, and my wife's Rivka, and please keep the prayers coming. I think the rain's finished, but please keep the prayers coming. We don't get much rain, and our roof doesn't leak. So far, so good. Thank you. Pray for my left hip and abdomen. The abdomen's been great today. Keep the prayers coming, please. Please. Pray for me and my wife, Rivka, for peace, safety, protection, and joy and healing of our bodies, and pray for our finances, and pray for our animals and pets, that they be happy, healthy, and whole, and not have fights or run away. Now, our car, my wife has a lot of chronic knee problems. She had a surgery a long time ago. So please keep praying for her knee. It looks like we got to get rid of our 10-year-old car because it's a stick shift and she can't work the clutch. And I don't drive anymore because one of my eyes is about out. You know, I don't have good vision. So we're going to have to get an automatic car or something like that. So pray that her knee get healed. And I guess the secondary prayer is we get a good, cheap, used car with automatic. She's got to go do the barley inspection soon, and she's got a lot of trouble driving in the traffic with that clutch. So it's a tough clutch. The car we got they call it an SUV, but it's really about 75% truck and 25% like a car, where the SUVs in America are very much, they like cars, the way they ride and stuff. This thing rides like a real truck, you know. So, may need to go. We've put a lot of repairs in it over the years. It's 10 years old, but what are you going to do? All right, so thank you for the offerings, those of you that are sending them in, that it enables the work to go on, I guess you could say, and makes you a partaker of the rewards. And the days of Elijah are very well going on right now, don't worry. And I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I hope you got something out of this. I think you did. and I'm out. And don't worry about anything. Whatever you do, don't worry. He's God. Be still and know He's God, and He loves you. Don't worry.